Good afternoon. This is Judge Case. Good afternoon. Is Mr. Worku on the line? Is Mr. Magan on the line?
Mr. Magan is on the line.
Magan? All right. And your number is the 1642?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Because I don't see a name, I just see a phone number. And someone is on whose last four digits are 0488. Mr. Worku, is that you?
I'm 0488. I'm just a member of the public.
Oh, you're a member of the public. Okay, welcome. Again, this is Judge Case, and we are here in the matter of Kesa and Magan. Or can you pronounce your last name for me again, please?
I think it's pronounced Magan, Your Honor.
Magan. Okay, thank you. I'll try to make a note. All right. Let's see. And Mr. Worku, is that you? Did you just call in?
Hi, this is Tiger Worku.
Great. Hi. Thank you. This is Judge Case. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah.
So I'm Judge Case, and I'm with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and our role is to hold hearings like this in a manner that's fair and impartial to all parties. I'm recording this. Any member of the public or any party can have a copy of the recording after the hearing is over by making a request to our office staff. But we don't have court reporters, and so we use this recording to make sure that we have an accurate recording of the proceedings. I'm going to explain a little bit about what we're doing here today, and then I'm going to turn to the two parties that are involved, Mr. Magan and Mr. Worku. I'm going to swear you in, and I'm going to let you say whatever it is that you have to say about this matter, and I may have some questions for you. So the first thing that I want to say is that we are here in the matter of Kesa Magan v. Tiger Worku, and if I'm mispronouncing anyone's name, I apologize, and please just keep correcting me. I will make a note phonetically as best I can and try to remember. So again, apologies in advance if I'm not saying your names correctly. This is my docket number 0325-39465. And again, this Office of Administrative Hearings is charged with the responsibility of receiving and hearing certain complaints about alleged violations of Chapter 211A and 211B of the Minnesota statutes that relate to campaign practices and finances. And I will, just for the parties, ask you, beginning with Mr. Magan, to just state and spell your name for the record. Thank you.
First name is Kayseh, Kayseh. Last name is Magan, Magan.
Thank you. And Mr. Worku?
First name is Tiger, Tiger. Last name is Worku, Worku.
Thank you. So as you know, Mr. Magan filed a complaint on August 21st of this year alleging campaign financial reporting violations under Minnesota Statute 211A.02, which, as you probably both know, sets forth what reporting requirements there are relating to donations and expenditures. So I issued an order on August 23rd finding that the complaint set forth a prima facie violation of 211A.02. So that just means just a very preliminary finding that if everything as stated was true and assuming that, but not taking it as a fact at this point, then there was a violation of 211A.02. So the purpose of this hearing is to determine whether there are sufficient facts in the record to believe that a violation has occurred as alleged in the complaint. And so to that end, I'm going to give both of you an opportunity to speak to it if you wish to, offer more facts if you wish to, and if you decide to do that, to ask questions within the scope of what we're talking about today, to ask questions of one another. So, again, the purpose today is to answer the question whether, given the facts disclosed on the record, it's fair and reasonable to require that the respondent, that's Mr. Worku, go to a hearing on the merits. At the hearing on the merits, parties have an opportunity to give more testimony or testimony at that hearing, evidence and argument concerning the underlying complaint. We can also, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, we can also, you can both agree, but you must both agree.
Sorry, it appears you keep cutting out on my end.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Same here, Your Honor. You're cutting out every once in a while.
Okay. Okay, so please let me know if that continues happening. I'm checking my microphone right now. Okay, and how is it now?
Perfect. I can hear you.
All right, thank you. So again, you could both agree that instead of holding a formal hearing after today's probable cause hearing, that the arguments could be submitted, if you have arguments and more evidence, that those things could be submitted in writing. And you can think about that. You don't have to decide today whether or not you prefer to.
It appears you're cutting off again now.
Okay, I just don't know why. I'm gonna try one more time. I'm facing very directly to my computer. And now I just got a message from Microsoft saying it looks like something is wrong. And they're going to try to fix it. Could you hear me then?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Let me start with this. At this point, Mr. Muggan, do you have any questions about what we're doing today?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Worku, do you?
I do. So in terms of legal representation, you said that this isn't a hearing, so if the facts are determined in this meeting that there is in fact probable cause, then it would go to the hearing. Then would it be probable to bring in legal representation?
Completely up to you. Some people do. I don't even know if I could guess whether or not more people do or don't. I think more people don't, but some people do bring in legal representation at this stage, at the next stage, and yes, that you are entitled to that at any stage. I mean, we don't provide an attorney, but you may bring an attorney at any stage. So yes, if it goes forward to a hearing, that hearing is held before a panel of 3 judges, myself being one, and there being 2 others. So, yes. Any other questions? That was a good one.
No, thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Worku, do you have? I'm not going to turn to this part yet, but I'm wondering, do you have anything that you're intending to present today, be it your own testimony or anything else?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Muggan, how about you?
Your Honor, I have nothing to present. Everything that I wanted to present is in the initial complaint that I made.
Okay. Thank you both. have a few more preliminary things to say, because I want you to understand this process as best as I'm able to explain it, especially given technical difficulties. And I then will swear each of you in, because I am going to take testimony from you. I want to hear what you have to say, and I want to make sure that, although this is an informal proceeding, this is informal as proceedings tend to go. We're doing it by phone, etc. I still want to swear you in, since I will be taking testimony. The burden...
Your Honor,
go ahead.
I apologize. I just want to make a statement. I understand that Mr. Worku just stated that he has some evidence to present, but I have not been served with that evidence as you instructed.
No, I'm sorry. She asked if I had any testimony to give as well, and that's why I said yes.
Yes. Okay, and so that's going to be allowed. Again, I think I just addressed the burden of proof. It's on the complainant in these matters. Essentially, I will find after today that either there is reason to go forward to an evidentiary hearing, or that there is no basis for continuing forward to a hearing. And in that case, I will dismiss the complaint. Following today's probable cause hearing, I will issue that decision within 3 to 7 days. We try to do these in an expedited manner because we realize that the elections are approaching. All right. I'm going to swear you each in one at a time and then go back to your testimony. I find that's most efficient. So actually, I'll just have you both raise your right hand at the same time and ask you both if you swear that the testimony you're about to give relative to this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Mr. Muggen?
I do.
Mr. Worku?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Muggen, turning to you first because you have the burden, do you have any testimony that you would like to give at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. As I submitted my complaint, thank you. As I submitted my complaint, Mr. Worku listed just one item as a primary and reported over $47,000 in donations. He did not list a single expense. Individual donor, whether it's their first name, last name, their place of employment, or if they're self-employed where they work for the industry that they're in. Additionally, for the expenses, it appears that there's an expense that was uploaded, but it appears it's not entirely accurate for the expense part, simply because it's just large amounts of donation or expenses, like $15,000 or $3,000 here, for things that are very round numbers that look like just areas, so computer or data, that looks like, expenses are quickly, being made to essentially cover up the money that was raised or was not raised. So, for example, there's an item for $3,000 for a website, but I know using the Wayback Machine and looking at the Tiger Worku's website, that website has not changed. It still looks the same as it did last year when he did another report that showed that website was $29.99. Recently, on July 1st, there was an expense stating that website costed or something for a website was $3,000, but that website does not look like it cost $3,000. It has not changed. So again, just summarizing what was in my initial complaint, there are no individuals named donors as stated in law, for campaign finance laws, and there is no expenses that would show an accurate reporting of how expenses were, where the expenses went.
So as I understand it, again, the complaint is twofold, not a list of contributors, and you are alleging that the list of expenditures does not comply with the requirements.
That's correct, Your Honor.
The document that you sent in, which has the filing information, that's which includes the expenditures that you just mentioned, showing expenditures of $59,046, negative $11,440, etc. That's from the Minneapolis candidate website. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Have you filled
The website is called MapLight.
It's called MapLight?
I believe the website and the contributions that are supposed to be submitted is the MapLight.
How is that spelled?
I believe it is in there.
I see it. I'm sorry, I see it at the bottom of the page that you submitted. It says MapLight. I see it now. I wanted to make sure I had it right. So you filled out, you have such a web page also with MapLight, correct?
That is correct.
And when you submitted your information, I'm asking these questions because I'm trying to understand how the Minneapolis system works. When you submitted your information, did you submit a piece of paper to the city, or did you fill out an online form that then generated this page that the public can see?
So for me, I created an account on that site as the city instructed, and then I was able to fill out 2 Excel spreadsheets that I downloaded from the website, one for contributions and one for expenses, and then you upload both of those, and then it automatically populates so that you don't have to add every single individual contribution or expense. There's an Excel spreadsheet, and then that populates it into the system.
So
So you upload a Excel spreadsheet.
I understand, I think. When you printed the information that you submitted with your complaint, the information from Mr. Worku's MapLight site, did you ask the city for a paper copy of what he had submitted, or did you simply go to the website and print this out?
I went to the website and printed it because that's the only place to access the contribution expenses of the candidate.
So you think that if you went to Minneapolis and asked for a paper copy, that they would direct you to the website?
Yes, because that's where you would fill it out.
And because they don't take paper filings, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, they don't. There was an older system that was used for the last report, which was an Excel spreadsheet that has everything kind of locked, so you just put in the name and addresses. They upgraded it to this new system so that new people who were filing it after the middle of July could use this new system. And they sent us instructions on how to fill it out, told us to create an account, and provided contact information for people employed with the city who deal with campaign finance laws if anyone had any instructions or needed assistance.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else to add?
No. To the best of my knowledge, unless Mr. Worku has uploaded a new Excel spreadsheet with the contact information, my complaint still stands the way it was. I don't see any contributions from individuals except for that one lump sum of $47,000. And for the expenses, again, it does not seem like it shows. I've done campaign finance. I filled out as the treasurer for other campaigns. I'm a candidate myself running against Mr. Worku. I find it very hard to believe that expenses that he submitted, though there are all round numbers of 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 are accurate. My hypothesis is, and this is something, I'm not, I'm just saying this is what it appears to me from looking at other campaigns who've done something like this, where candidates try to appear to be viable candidates by saying that they raised a lot of money, but then they don't really have the information of the individuals who contributed to those campaigns, so they can't provide those, so they just say it's all under $100, and then when it comes to dumping that money or showing expenses, they have all these round numbers that really can show an accurate reflection of how their campaign is going. For example, if someone spent $3,000 on a website, it would show how that website looked on the Wayback Machine, which is an online portal to see how websites looked. And Mr. Worku's website hasn't changed. So there's other expenses, and all these expenses are in July or June, and they're one-time big expenses. I know campaigns are not like that. They have like weekly expenses for different things. So again, kind of adding to my theory that there aren't people. I don't believe that Mr. Worku raised this amount of money. If he did, he would have provided this information, and the expenses are essentially a way to cover up the money that was not really raised, so that he could come back to where he was initially in his balance sheet. So that's just my hypothesis. If Mr. Worku can prove me wrong by providing that information as required by law, that would be good. I think the residents of the ward, 3 weeks out from election, early voting, deserve to know who's funding individuals' campaigns and how those expenses, where those expenses are going.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Worku, you're under oath, and you can also offer, just tell me whatever information you'd like me to know about your response to the complaint.
Thank you, Your Honor. According to Minnesota State Law 211A.02, every individual's contribution, their name, and their address along with their workplace is required to be listed unless that individual gave $100 or less. So in this situation, we're running a grassroots campaign. We've got a wide network of people who've been willing to give to our campaign, and none of our contributions that exceeded state law that would need to be listed have not been listed. So we are well within the law in terms of our reporting information. The second thing regarding MapLight, it's a new system. This time, last time we filed our campaign finance report, it was on a different system. But we've been in communication with the city. We've been looking at how to adjust the dates in terms of the amounts we've spent. And if you look at the amount of expenditures we've listed, there's nothing, once again, that can be proven without a burn of a doubt that we violated the law and incorrectly reported our expenses. So this is all hearsay from my political opponent 3 weeks leading up to early voting. And I will just, for the record, state that our website has changed, and that there are many other factors that lead into keeping the website up and adjusting certain things. And so we've put all those expenses down, and we believe that we are well within the law. And I have yet to hear any hardcore evidence, despite hearsay, that we have violated the law.
Your Honor, may I make a comment if Mr. Worku is done?
Let me ask him if he is. Mr. Worku, is that all for now? And I'll come back to you.
That is all for now, yes.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Muginar, you want to provide more testimony in response to what Mr. Worku said? Is that what you'd like to do now?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay. I'd like to remind Mr. Worku that he's under oath and that this conversation is being recorded, as you stated earlier. So the new MapLight system requires that even if your contribution, so number one, if we are to believe that $47,000 plus came from 470 plus people who all decided to not give more than $100. If we were to believe that, Mr. Worku still has to provide their first name, last name, their address, and all that information into MapLight, and then MapLight has a feature where if someone donated less than $100 or $100 or less, they hide that information, but you still have to provide that information to MapLight, and then they essentially have a software program where it's programmed so that even though you provided that actual information, if that person donated $100 or less, it still does not show their information. There's a category and itemized, right? So you still have to provide that information.
Your Honor, may I also add some testimony?
Yes, please.
So once again, if we're going by state law, it doesn't state that you need to provide that information into MapLight. MapLight is a tool that can help automatically remove people who've given less than $100 or exactly $100. But state law, as written, does not state that you need to put all that information into MapLight.
I will just say that the city of Minneapolis, you followed the city of Minneapolis' guidelines for reporting before, and you filled out the Excel spreadsheets for the first one. And this, just to give a background, Your Honor, Mr. Worku, just from his last report, started his campaign collecting donations last summer, around June or July, and he raised a little over $27,000 in the last report. That report was supposed to be due within 2 weeks of raising $100 or more, or I'm sorry, $700 or more, and he never did that, so he just skipped that first report and just filed a report in January 31 when the next report was due, and that report showed that he raised well over $20,000 from 5 to 7 people who had their information listed, and they all donated $250. The rest of that money was supposedly people who donated $100 or less. So I say that not to challenge that past report, but to show some context that for his last report, only 7 people he provided 7 people's names and their addresses, and they all donated the maximum $250 each, and then the rest of the $20,000 supposedly came from people who received $100 or less. So the reason why the MapLight system exists is because in the past, you didn't have to, in the Excel spreadsheet, you didn't have to provide names and addresses if they donated $100 or less. But this new MapLight feature allows you so that if that person, you provide that person's name so that in the next report, if they donated maybe $50, it adds that total, and then that person's name shows up, right? Because that's the way you do it. So state law doesn't say that you don't have to use MapLight, but the city of Minneapolis requires you. That is, so if Mr. Worku is trying to avoid the city of Minneapolis' way of showing transparency to the residents of Minneapolis, or those who want to look at campaign reports and expenses, and he says, well, I don't want to use that. I find it very interesting that he doesn't want to use this feature, this system that everyone is using called MapLight, which now forces you, even if someone donates $50, to still put their first name, last name, their address, city and state, right, and their employer, and then that system automatically says, oh, this person donated $100, so it's just going to be under an itemized, there's a area for that. So that you still have, but he doesn't have that information, Your Honor, because I believe he never collected this information. So for him to say, all his donations, all $47,000+, right? He wants to brag and say, I've raised over $47,000, but then says, when it comes down to reporting, none of this money came from $100 or over, and I don't want to use the MapLight feature, which forces me to put down people's actual names and addresses, and if they actually did donate $100, it would cover that, so it wouldn't be made public, it would just show it under an itemized. So I think there is probable cause, and this is like my 4th report that I filed among other candidates who ran for Ward 6 or for other offices, so I'm pretty familiar with some of this stuff, and I feel like if Mr. Worku can provide that information through MapLight as other candidates have, who still have received donations. I have received donations of people who've given $5 and $10 and $50, and I put that in there, and I followed that. But for him to now say, I'm not going to even use that map light feature because there's nothing in state law that says map light. That is insane. I think this goes to show that there is probable cause, and Mr. Worku cannot provide a list of the actual people who donated to him.
All right.
Mr.
Worku, yes, I'll go to you. And that was, and that, again, this is why these are somewhat informal, but that was a mix of kind of closing statement, argument, and I would take as testimony the part that explains for me a little bit more about how the city of Minneapolis's system works. But Mr. Worku, now turning to you, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. That was a lot, but if we're sticking to the facts here, as Mr. McGowan stated in his closing statement, there is no violation of state law. Sure, he can criticize me on style, but the fact remains that we've got a campaign going on, and if he would like to take this recording and run it in an ad, he has more than ample ability to do so. However, in this case, regarding the facts and regarding whether or not state law was violated, take Mr. McGowan's words himself and that no, it wasn't violated. Also, I'd like to clarify something regarding MapLight. Yes, MapLight can take data for people who contributed less than $100. However, that's not public information, and MapLight will automatically block that from the public. So it's not as if I'm acting in a non-transparent way. Those donors still wouldn't be visible. However, in terms of purely looking at the law and how it is, and instead of what Mr. McGowan believes or applying the law retrospectively in his past situations, our campaign filed a report and we are sticking by it. So that's all that we've got so far, and I hope that the facts will prevail in this situation. And the fact is, pretty good.
All right, thank you. I have two questions for you. To your knowledge, and you may not know this and that's fine, could a candidate for city council in Minneapolis choose to not file in the MapLight system, but file with the state of Minnesota instead, their financial report?
Was that question for me, Your Honor?
For Mr. Worku, and I'll give Mr. Muggin a chance as well. But Mr. Worku, do you know?
I do not know.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. And I'm wondering, because what I have before me is a printout of your Mr. Worku's public-facing information as entered into MapLight. Mr. Worku, do you have any issue with me going to the actual website and using that and looking at the Minneapolis directions there as part of my report?
Sorry, could you rephrase the question?
Yeah, and I may do this even if you say no, you'd rather I didn't. But and this goes for both of you. But I just want to see whether or not you have any thoughts on whether or not it's appropriate for me to actually go to the MapLight, for lack of a better term, because I don't know what they're calling it, the Minneapolis site, to see for myself what's actually there.
No, I don't have any trepidations.
Okay, and thank you. And I'll come back again, so don't worry, in case you have other thoughts. Mr. Muggin, same question.
And the question is, are city council candidates supposed to file with the state?
Yeah, let's start with that one, yes. Can you, in lieu of filing with, instead of filing with Minneapolis, can a candidate simply file with the state?
No, Your Honor, candidates cannot file with the state, they have to file with the city of Minneapolis.
Okay, thank you for
City
that.
Council candidates for Minneapolis.
All right, and same question about do you see any reason to object to me looking at the website myself?
No, please look at my, you can feel free to look at my campaign donations and stuff.
All right. And then back to Mr. Worku, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we'll proceed, but before I do that, do you have any closing thoughts?
You cut out there. Did you ask if I have any closing thoughts?
Yes, I did, and I'm sorry. And you needn't have. I mean, I felt like your statement was complete, but if you do, feel free to add anything.
Yeah, no, I think that sums up everything that I have to say in my last statement.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Muggin, same question for you. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, Your Honor. I just would like to add that Mr. Worku in his previous statement said that even if he did fill out all the donations that were under $100 or less, and he provided the actual information, it still would be unitemized. So there's no difference, I guess, if he just did the way he did, with just this one lump sum. But that's not how the city is instructed us. That's not the feature of MapLight. You're still supposed to submit that information into MapLight, and MapLight reads that and then makes it unitemized, right? You're still supposed to connect that. It is impossible to believe, Your Honor, that someone raises $47,000, more than that, and receives all of that, even if they donate the maximum $100, that where, you don't have to report that. Where all of those people just somehow all agree, let's donate the maximum amount without having reporting, and then having expenses that are wildly out of track, right? Because if you put in the actual information of how much money you're putting in, you can see when those donations are going out, right? So you can see dates. But for all these large expenses that are all around to go out, I'm kind of shocked at the statements that I'm hearing. I was expecting Mr. Worku to say that he had issues with the MapLight system and that he was going to upload something, but to say that 470 plus people all donated $100 or less, and that he does not want to put that information into MapLight, which would cover that, censor that people's information, just goes to my initial complaint that Mr. Worku has never really raised this amount of money or never collected the information, right? And I also have similar concerns about the expenses, right? Campaigns usually want to look viable, so they raise a lot of money, and then the campaigns that are dishonest will say that they can look competitive, will raise a lot of money, and then show expenses that are out of track, right? That don't really reflect reality, like expenses for technology and computer systems and things that, like a website, right? I mean, my website costed $7,000, right? And it's been through several, since the last 8 months. But for Worku website, just all spent $3,000 in July, and then all these other ones. It just goes to show that there is probable cause for looking into this further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go back to what I had raised at the beginning, which is the possibility of, should I find probable cause such that this would go forward to a hearing, would you both, and again, you don't have to answer now, would you both agree, rather than coming to a hearing here at OAH, which is in downtown St. Paul, to submit the matter on the record? You could both submit written arguments and address, again, if we got to this point, address the penalty, which is what the 3-judge panel, if I found probable cause, it would go to a 3-judge panel, which would make a determination, again, a final determination on whether or not there was a violation and determine a penalty if there was. You can consider whether or not you would waive a hearing in that matter, and again, just submit your arguments in writing. So,
Your Honor, I think I want to say yes.
Mr. Muggin, is this you?
Yes, Mr. Muggin. Yes, I would like to waive a hearing and submit further evidence and serve the other party and submit that paperwork to OAH instead of doing a hearing.
Mr. Worku, are you prepared to answer at this time?
Yeah, I would prefer a hearing if it were to go that far. I would like it to be in person in front of the three-judge panel.
Okay, thank you. And a person who wants a hearing prevails. And again, you can think about it after you get the decision from this hearing and change your mind, both of you in either direction. We'll reach out again about that. Mr. Worku, do you have any other questions for me today?
Yeah, I do. So, just regarding the previous testimony, because I had thought that it was over, I thought that Mr. McGowan had given his closing statement, and I gave my closing statement, but it sounded like he had more to give. I just had a couple of questions for you regarding his testimony.
Okay.
First, he said that it was impossible, that we got contributions from X amount of people for X amount of dollars. And I'm just curious to see if you'd be able to fact check that in live time.
I don't even know what that means.
So he said that it would be impossible. And that's a definitive statement right there. However, it wouldn't be impossible. And so is there a way to fact check that for the record? Are you kind of allowed to come and say, well, actually, it wouldn't be impossible for that to happen, or?
I mean, I took that as argument, and I think that goes into the decision-making on this part of this case. So, I don't know, I don't want to say I can fact-check it in real time, but I think, yes, in the sense that I'm going to weigh everything that was said here today and reach a final decision, which would naturally include whether or not the arguments that have been made carry water, so to speak.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the clarification. That was my only question. Thanks for that.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Muggin, do you have any questions for me? Not more testimony, not argument, but just any questions about anything?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And thank you both for calling in today. Thank you for your courtesy. And we'll get an order out in this matter as soon as we're able, but shortly. Thank you both. We're adjourned.
Thank you.